Derrick Henry scored 97 touchdowns in 1 year of high school, and they took him out at halftime. I'm like, who the cares about you scored 19 touchdowns?
That is Tom Brady, holding a mirror up to Logan Paul and saying, "You are not special, not even close." And the internet didn't just watch that moment, it shared it millions of times because nobody had ever seen Brady this unfiltered before, and it only gets worse from here. Tom Brady face to face with Logan Paul. On March 18th and 19th, 2026, the official Fanatics Flag Football Classic Draft was held at the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills, live streamed for the entire internet to watch in real time. And Tom Brady and Logan Paul were in the same room, on the same stage, in front of Kevin Hart, Drusky, and a collection of NFL stars that included some of the most recognizable names in professional football. And whatever reasonable, rational part of you thought the beef had been all for show, that the moment these two men actually occupied the same physical space, some kind of professionalism would kick in and they would nod politely and take their spots on opposite sides of the stage. That part of you was wrong. It did not go like that. It went like this.
What do you want, Tom?
Nothing.
Say something. You had a lot to say on my podcast. Now you got nothing to say?
Logan walked up, Tom Brady stood there, and Logan opened with what was, in its directness, almost a dare. "You had a lot to say on my podcast. Now what? Say something." Brady's response, delivered with the calm of a man who has made game-winning throws in sub-zero temperatures in front of 90,000 screaming people, was a flat, dismissive, "I got nothing to say. Not to you. Not right now. Not in this room. Not worth my breath." But Logan was not done, because Logan is never done.
I was greeting my teammates. Something I learned from you, Tom.
Yeah.
About team important, membership. You gotta get along with your team.
He had the audacity, and genuinely, it takes a specific kind of audacity to pull this off in front of the people who were in that room, to turn it into a moment of appreciation. He told Brady he had learned from him about teamwork, about the importance of getting along with your teammates. He delivered this with the perfectly calibrated energy of a man who knew exactly how infuriating it would be to have Brady's own message weaponized back at him as sarcastic gratitude. Brady's response was immediate. One word: bone dry.
Tell me more. Talk some. He said, yes, he did. I saw him talk to his team when they were down 28-3. He motivated them all to come back and win.
Someone in the crowd jumped in, referencing Brady's legendary Super Bowl LI comeback, the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, as evidence of Brady's leadership in action. The whole room laughed. Brady stood there, and you could almost see him deciding, in real time, that this was actually the correct energy, that he did not need to escalate, that simply existing in this room with this resume was the entire argument.
You had something to say then, Tom. Now you got nothing to say?
We're saving it for a few days from now.
But Brady did have something to say. He was just choosing his moments carefully, because what came next was not random. It was a surgical strike aimed at one of the most embarrassing elements of Logan's recent beef history.
Logan picked a fight with Myles Garrett. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The room erupted because Brady was right. Logan had publicly challenged Myles Garrett, one of the most physically dominant defensive ends in all of professional football, to a $1 million boxing match. And Myles Garrett had not shown up at the draft. He was not there. And so Brady, in front of everyone, pointed at the empty space where Myles Garrett was not, and made that absence say everything.
Sounds like you couldn't afford it.
I know. Le'Veon Bell, you decided not to fight him. Your flags are going to be white on
Hey.
Logan shot back that it sounded like Brady couldn't afford Garrett, a line that landed in the room with the energy of a man who knows he is losing this particular exchange, but is absolutely not going to stop talking. Brady responded by pointing out that Le'Veon Bell had also declined Logan's boxing challenge, and that when they stepped onto that flag football field, the metaphorical flags would be white, as in surrender, as in you are going to get embarrassed out there, and we all know it. And then Logan, who had been in de facto heel mode for the entirety of this exchange, decided to go full Logan Paul.
Hey. We might have a fight this weekend.
Okay.
WWE can't stop me from
You might wear a helmet because that ball
field.
might get loose in my hand. And
He threatened to fight Brady on the field, on the actual flag football field, during the actual game. And Brady, in response, delivered what might be the single best line of this entire feud, suggesting Logan might want to wear a helmet, not because of any hit he might take, but because Brady himself might fumble the ball and Logan was simply not paying enough attention. Logan, in the grip of a moment he was absolutely not going to let go of quietly, shot back.
Oh, you're talking about a ball. I'm talking about fighting.
And that is, honestly, the perfect encapsulation of this entire feud. Brady is talking about football. Logan is talking about fighting. They are occupying the same conversation while operating in almost entirely different contexts. And the friction of those two realities colliding is exactly what has made this so entertaining to watch From the very beginning, the room, by this point, had reached a level of chaos that required intervention. And intervention arrived in the form of Kevin Hart, who had spent most of his career in the vicinity of large, athletic men doing ridiculous things, and somehow managed to still look genuinely surprised by what he was witnessing.
Hey man, what the fuck is happening, man? Seriously, man. Okay, it's our pick.
Hey, Kev.
Kevin Hart, comedian, producer, actor, man who has been at the center of more pop culture moments than most people can count, wanted to know what was happening. Genuinely. He looked like a man who had arrived for a flag football draft and accidentally walked into something that required a mediator and possibly a licensed referee with a whistle. But even amid Kevin Hart's very genuine confusion, Brady had one final arrow in the quiver, and it was aimed directly at the one Logan Paul boast that had started this entire thing. The 19 touchdowns, the high school stats, the rushing yards that Logan had brought up on that original podcast episode as evidence that he was, athletically speaking, a serious person who deserved serious consideration.
Tom came on my podcast and started all this.
Well, Logan, I didn't see it. I don't know what's going on, man.
And then Brady delivered the comparison that sent the room into its most sustained eruption of the night. He referenced Derrick Henry, one of the most physically dominant running backs in NFL history. He let the sentence hang there for a moment, and then he completed it. In the specific context of Brady comparing Logan's high school record to one of the most physically dominant running backs in the history of the sport.
Logan goes, Tom, I scored 19 touchdowns in high school. I'm like, Derrick Henry scored 97 touchdowns in...
It was not even a cruel thing to say. It was just a math problem. And the answer to the math problem was, 19 is not 97. Logan is not Derrick Henry. And whatever credentials Logan had brought into this feud as athletic evidence of his superiority, Brady had just dissolved them with a single historical comparison, delivered with the casual ease of a man who has been doing exactly this kind of thing, tearing apart defenses, identifying weaknesses, executing with precision for over 20 years. Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin, watching all of this unfold from somewhere in the room, reportedly said he had never been to a draft where he laughed so hard and that they were going to need extra security around these two. He added that the two were serious right now and would probably be having drinks together later, which is, honestly, the most accurate possible description of what this entire feud has been. Serious right now, drinks later. Promotional heat with genuine competitive energy underneath it. All of it building toward a game that, by the time the draft was over, had become the most talked about flag football event in recent memory. And the rosters? Brady is captaining the Founders FFC, featuring teammates including Rob Gronkowski, Ashton Jeanty, and Stephon Diggs. Logan is leading the Wildcats FFC, with stars like Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow lined up alongside him. They are on opposing teams. They will be on the same field, and every single piece of content generated over the past 5 weeks, every podcast moment, every Instagram reel, every B-word comment, every $1 million boxing challenge, every cute and tell me more, and who the cares about 19 touchdowns, has been building, intentionally or not, toward this moment. The Fanatics Flag Football Classic is set for March 21st, 2026 at BMO Stadium in Los Angeles, broadcasting live on Fox and Tubi. And the broader context here is bigger than just one game. This event is part of flag football's push toward its Olympic debut at LA 28, a moment that the sport's organizers have been building toward for years. The fact that it now has Tom Brady on a field, trash-talking Logan Paul in front of millions of viewers, is exactly the kind of mainstream visibility that flag football needs to establish itself as a serious Olympic discipline rather than just a backyard game played in parking lots on Sunday afternoons. Bleacher Report analysts have been calling it some of the smartest sports marketing of the year, a beef that managed to be genuinely entertaining while simultaneously generating real promotional heat for an event that might otherwise have gone relatively unnoticed outside of core sports audiences. Brady's rare vulgarity, Logan's outsized confidence, the WWE coming for Brady's throat, Kevin Hart standing in the middle of a draft looking like he has no idea what country he is in. All of it, every single piece of it, has been exceptional television, and it has been essentially free. Here is something you need to understand about Tom Brady's public image before we talk about what happened on March 3rd, 2026. from where this feud started. Tom Brady is, in the entire history of professional sports, one of the most carefully maintained human brands that has ever existed. The man has won 7 Super Bowls. He has survived the public dissolution of his marriage, a retirement and unretirement, a second retirement, a broadcasting deal that changed hands more dramatically than a relay baton, and about 47,000 hot takes about whether he is truly the greatest of all time. And through all of it, through every single one of those moments, he has maintained a specific, deliberate, laser-focused public persona. He is measured, he is controlled, he is, above all else, the guy who does not let you see him sweat. He does not go off script. He does not do impulsive things on social media. He does not, as a general rule, deploy profanity publicly to describe his adversaries. But that day, he did something different. Brady goes nuclear and the world catches fire. On March 3rd, 2026, he went on Instagram and called Logan Paul a bitch. Not once, twice, with the casual energy of a man who had been building to this for weeks and was extremely comfortable with his word choice. Brady posted a workout reel on his official Instagram account, featuring himself and Rob Gronkowski practicing on a field. The reel starts innocuously enough, 2 enormous, impossibly athletic men throwing a football around, looking roughly 12 to 15 years younger than their actual ages suggest they should. And then Brady, mid-workout, addresses the camera, and the address is not polished. It is not carefully worded. It is not the kind of thing that went through 3 layers of PR approval before it hit the internet. It is instead Tom Brady saying, clearly and directly, and with evident satisfaction, Logan Paul is a bitch. Just say he's a bitch. And then, for emphasis, because apparently one declaration was not sufficient, he repeated it, running past the camera. And Gronkowski, who is standing right there and who has known Tom Brady for most of his adult life, is visibly, genuinely shocked. Because even Rob Gronkowski, a man not historically known for his restraint, apparently did not have Tom Brady drop bomb on Instagram on a Tuesday on his bingo card. Gronk had actually tried, just moments earlier, to offer something resembling a measured take on Logan. He had called Logan an entertainer who has shown a lot of skills in those combat sports, before adding, he genuinely wasn't sure Logan had the skills specifically for football. It was a generous, fair, balanced assessment, and Brady blew right past it to get to the part. Brady also added, for full measure, come play with the big boys. You're lucky you won't get hit. To understand why Brady got here, why a man this disciplined, this controlled, this allergic to impulsive public statements arrived at the word on a random Wednesday in March, you have to understand what Logan Paul had said to him first, and what Logan had been saying about him since, but that's exactly what we're going to get into in part 2. For now, what matters is, Brady said it, the internet heard it, and Logan Paul heard it too. Logan Paul heard about this, obviously, and Logan Paul, who has spent his entire career running toward conflict rather than away from it, was not inclined to take the quiet path.
I mean, look, let's be honest. I'm still gonna score that touchdown and beat Tom Brady. I wouldn't be surprised if I throw hands with Tom Brady on the field in LA during that flag football game.
By the time Logan got to this point in his follow-up impulsive episode, the game had been relocated from Saudi Arabia to Los Angeles, a change in venue that had done nothing whatsoever to cool the temperature of the beef. If anything, Logan seemed more fired up than he had been, more animated, more ready to put things in terms that left absolutely no room for interpretation. He was not going to shake hands and call it promotional hype. He was going to score touchdowns, he was going to throw hands, he was going to, in the very specific language he used, beat Tom Brady on the field, in front of everyone. And then someone in the room brought up the fact that Brady, in the viral IG reel, had been speaking to Gronkowski, Rob Gronkowski, the same Gronkowski whose brothers Logan Paul had famously fought in a boxing ring.
Also, there's a clip of him out there, of him calling me him and Gronk going back and forth.
It was Brady enlisting a man whose family had already felt Logan's fists as an ally in the verbal assault, and Logan, who has a very specific and well-documented sense of his own combat sports legacy, was not going to let that slide without comment.
To Gronk of all people, who I beat up all of his brothers back to back to back.
Oh, is this your
literally in a
Logan's point was clear. Gronkowski had never actually gotten in the ring himself. His brothers had, and they had lost. And yet, here was Gronk, co-signing Brady's commentary, participating in the Logan Paul content, which, in Logan's estimation, was not a position Gronk had earned, not without stepping through the ropes himself. It was not a subtle point, but then again, subtlety has never really been Logan's brand. and the escalation did not stop with Gronkowski. Logan had also been in the process of issuing boxing challenges to NFL players throughout this period, a strategy that was, in its own chaotic way, extremely effective at keeping the story alive. He was particularly vocal about one sweeping declaration.
I will kick their ass, including his.
You better be in bed early tonight.
And then he made the claim that would become the single most circulated Logan Paul statement of this entire feud.
Bro, he said get out here, then left. There is not a single NFL player who could beat me in a boxing ring. When it comes to fighting, it is a different discipline.
Not some NFL players, not most NFL players, not a single NFL player, active or retired, could beat him in a professional boxing match. And here is where Brady's competitive genius quietly revealed itself. Because instead of continuing to escalate verbally, instead of issuing his own counter challenge or dropping another Instagram reel, Brady did something that was, in retrospect, significantly more devastating. He showed up on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon on March 18th and did the one thing that no one expected. He pulled back, slightly, strategically. On The Tonight Show, Brady told Fallon that NFL players had been coming to him all week saying they wanted to go hard on Logan, and that Brady had to pump the brakes. "Guys, chill out," he reportedly told them. "We're not committing any crimes against Logan Paul." He even admitted that Logan's backflip, a move Logan had demonstrated as evidence of his superior athleticism, was genuinely impressive. Brady acknowledged the athleticism, kept the shade going just enough to maintain the heat, and positioned himself as the reasonable adult in the room who was having to manage the enthusiasm of an entire NFL roster that wanted to absolutely annihilate a content creator in a flag football game. It was, in its own way, the most perfectly calibrated trash talk move of the entire feud, because by telling people to calm down about Logan, Brady was implying that the people getting riled up were, in fact, NFL players who were taking this seriously, which suggested, without saying it directly, that Logan Paul getting on a football field with these men was a thing that required restraint on the NFL's part, not competition. Restraint. The internet, already on fire from the reel, ignited all over again, and then they all showed up in the same building. But before we get there, let's go all the way back to the beginning, because none of this happens, none of it, without one single word Brady said on a podcast in February. How one word lit the powder keg. To understand why this beef feels different, why it spread the way it did, why it has NFL veterans tuning in and WWE fans suddenly caring about flag football, you have to go back to the moment it began, because it did not begin with a post. It did not begin with a subtweet or a carefully worded statement or a press release from anyone's team. It began, as so many of the internet's most glorious disasters do, in the middle of a podcast. Specifically, it began during a promotional episode of Impulsive, Logan Paul's podcast, recorded during Super Bowl week activities in San Francisco in mid-February 2026, tied to an upcoming celebrity flag football event called the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, an event that at the time was set to take place in Saudi Arabia, and that would later be relocated to Los Angeles. The point is, Tom Brady sat down across from Logan Paul. Two men, one microphone, one conversation, and Logan Paul, who is not known for his subtlety, his restraint, or his tendency to undersell himself in any room, decided this was the moment to make a case. Not just a case, his case. The case that Logan Paul, WWE superstar, former professional boxer, content creator, and self-described pinnacle of human athleticism, was not just a good sport. He was, in his own estimation, operating at the level.
I'm told that I'm being flown out to Saudi Arabia to compete in a Fanatics flag football game with you.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually a little worried for you, because...
And here is where it gets interesting, because Brady did not say this with cruelty. He did not say it with the kind of sneering arrogance you might expect from someone who has won more championships than most franchises. He said it with the kind of genuine, slightly paternal concern you might use when telling a very confident child they might want to practice a little more before the recital. Brady was worried for Logan. He was not dismissive in the way that dismissiveness usually presents itself. Sharp, targeted, personal. He was dismissive the way you are when someone confidently tells you they can lift 300 pounds and you smile softly and say, "I'm sure you'll do great." That particular brand of quiet, condescending calm that somehow lands harder than any actual insult. And Logan, to his credit, was not going to just sit there and absorb it. He pushed back. He pushed back hard.
Well, you're a good athlete, but you're like...
No.
These guys are another level.
I am the highest level. I am the level.
But Brady was not finished. And this is the part of the exchange where the podcast went from spicy podcast moment to the clip that started everything. Because Brady did not just push back on Logan's athletic credentials. he pushed back on Logan's world. Specifically, he pushed back on Logan's world of professional wrestling in a way that was so polite, so measured, and so devastatingly precise that it had the energy of a surgeon delivering bad news with a smile.
No, you're not the level.
I am the level.
You're a good athlete, but honestly, when I'm thinking of Saquon Barkley and I'm thinking of like,
bro, can Saquon
Odell
Barkley
Beckham
do it?
and
Brady's point was simple and devastating in equal measure. When he thought about elite athleticism, the names that came to mind were players like Saquon Barkley, men who operated in a physical space so far beyond the average human that the comparison barely made sense. And Logan Paul, for all his legitimate accomplishments, for all his genuine athleticism, was simply not in that conversation, not even close. And then he said it. The word that started everything. He said WWE was cute. He said it the way you say something is cute when you are trying very hard not to say the word small. He said it with the gentle, appreciative tone of a man who genuinely loves WWE as a form of entertainment, but would like to be very clear that what they are doing in the Fanatics Flag Football Classic is something entirely different, something real. And then, just in case Logan had somehow missed the point, Brady underscored it by pointing out that the athletes he was playing with, players like Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr., were simply on another level, adding, for full effect, that he was actually a little worried for Logan when he thought about what those guys were capable of on a football field. Logan did not take this quietly, not even slightly.
cute. But honestly, this is like real football. This is real competition.
I was an all-state linebacker. I rushed for 1,200 yards, 19 touchdowns my senior year.
Logan fired back with his credentials. All-state linebacker in high school, went down 200 rushing yards, 19 touchdowns, and you could hear in his voice the very particular frustration of a man who has spent his entire adult life being told he doesn't belong in rooms where he very much believes he belongs. He was not going to sit there and let Tom Brady, of all people, reduce everything he had accomplished to the word cute. Brady's response was almost too perfect. He told Logan he was looking forward to seeing what Logan could bring to the field, suggesting with the gentle condescension of a 7-time champion that perhaps Logan's best days were comfortably behind him. And then, when Logan brought up the legendary moment Brady led the New England Patriots back from 28-3 down to win Super Bowl LI, using it as a kind of motivational blueprint for how he planned to approach the flag football game, Brady said the 3 words that perfectly encapsulated his entire energy in this conversation: "Tell me more." And somewhere in that exchange, the internet started paying very close attention. Meanwhile, on the other side of the podcast, Logan was asking the kind of question that Brady almost never has to answer, because the answer is so obvious that asking it feels almost redundant.
The perception is that you're the only definitive GOAT of a sport. Okay, like there's no conversation there. Now
And Brady, in that moment, did something entirely consistent with the man he has always been. He deflected the question entirely, not out of false modesty, but because he genuinely does not appear to need the validation of the title. He talked about other sports GOATs: Ronaldo, Messi, Lewis Hamilton in Formula One, Tiger Woods in golf, and turned the conversation into something almost philosophical about what greatness actually means, about consistency, about the difference between being gifted and being competitive every single day, even when the talent isn't there. He talked about Julian Edelman, who was neither the biggest nor the fastest wide receiver in his era, but who won 3 Super Bowls through sheer competitive ferocity. Brady described his philosophy of greatness as the ability of an artist to replicate perfection on a daily basis, and noted that out of roughly 700 passes a year, he felt he threw only 10 to 20 of them perfectly by his own standard. The WWE Universe wasted no time firing back. Paul Heyman, one of the most legendary minds in professional wrestling history and a man who has never in his life underreacted to anything, clapped back with characteristic theatrics, defending wrestling's entertainment value against Brady's real football framing, and suggesting Brady had no idea what he and Logan Paul would do to him on the mic. And Logan himself, he wasn't just going to absorb this, not even close. In follow-up interviews, Logan made his position crystal clear. If you put me and Tom Brady up athletically against one another in a majority of sports, I bet I'd be more athletic. He doubled down further, arguing that football itself was cute compared to boxing and WWE, weaponizing Brady's own word back against him. He went further still, claiming that if you took 99% of NFL athletes and put them in a WWE ring, they would not be able to do it. And then, because Logan Paul is constitutionally incapable of stopping while he is ahead, he opened up a standing offer of $1 million to any current or former NFL player willing to meet him in a professional boxing match. Any player, anytime. His money, his ring, his sport. The feud is far from over. Who do you think is right here? Share and tweet comments and click on the cards on screen for more.